let's get stuck into this. And now on the east coast of Australia, there is an absolute barrage of rain coming down. I want to go to the Gold Coast Bulletin first off. And I know there's a lot going on in New South Wales, and we'll get to that very shortly. But big, as we go to air tonight, we're seeing swollen rivers, the Coomera River and the Nerang River rising quickly. And there it is, that sinking feeling is the headline. Flooding strands residents, house left sitting on edge of landslide. And Bureau warns worse deluge is still to come. Emergency services have been dealing with hundreds of wild weather call-outs on the Gold Coast, including a stranded residents and a house perched on a slip, with the forecast for conditions to worsen. Another deluge is predicted for this morning, adding to flooding already inundating some areas. And in fact, there's a road at Sagano Drive, Oxenford, where it was impassable earlier today. Ollie, we might let the front pages just roll through over the next couple of minutes as we assess what's going on. But certainly you're a long way away there in Perth, but take it from me, mate. I've just sort of driven into our Brisbane studio, and I've got to say, it's absolutely bucketing down here in Brisbane, and I know that it's worse, certainly in parts of New South Wales around the Port Macquarie, Kempsey area, and certainly we're seeing on the Gold Coast conditions worsening overnight.
Yeah, we are certainly seeing the pictures here in Perth as well. Don't you worry about that, Gleeson. And I'm glad you started there with the Gold Coast Bulletin, because just talking here prior to the show, that is the front pages, I think, of tomorrow's flood coverage. That sinking feeling really just probably captures, I think, the mood, as you say, through all of those towns which are currently experiencing a massive deluge of water. And the reports that we see streamed right around the country here on Sky News, and you can't quite believe what is already impacting, obviously, all of our friends in the eastern states who are affected by this. And the last count I heard was 18,000 residents have been evacuated. The worst is still yet to come. Even those pictures you obviously see as well of the Warragamba Dam in Sydney letting the floodgates open and away things go. So I tell you what, there's no person in Australia right now who's not impacted by this, or knows somebody or friends of friends who've been impacted by this rainfall at the moment. I mean, it's something you would have wished was falling in the bucket loads that it is. Back in January of last year, when we had those raging bushfires up and down the eastern seaboard, but nothing quite like this, Gleeson. And all those poor people who are seeing their homes just being washed away, or they might have their wildlife as well, still struggling to keep their noses above water, if it's a cow or a horse or whatever it might be. It's just incredibly sad and confronting to see.
Let's go to the front of the Oz, mate. Downpour, a $2 billion disaster. Torrential rain to return. Defence Force put on alert. Criticism over floodplain development. Torrential rain on Tuesday is expected to worsen the flood crisis gripping the New South Wales mid-north coast and Western Sydney, adding to a damages bill that already exceeds $2 billion and forcing thousands more evacuations, as Scott Morrison placed the Defence Force on alert to assist flood-bound communities and sent 2 search and rescue helicopters. Emergency Management Minister David Littleproud criticised the New South Wales government for allowing residential development on floodplains, particularly the Hawkesbury and Nepean Valley. Now, that's an interesting take on this, I must say, Ollie. I mean, you know, I would have thought, and I've covered a lot of local government in my career. I remember kicking off as a council reporter at the age of 16 in Grafton. The flood mitigation aspect of councils and the way they operate is very, very real, and it's very, very rigorous, and it's very, very exhaustive. I would have thought we were way beyond, in the year 2021, building homes on flood-prone land.
You'd hope so, and you'd hope that this is not something from a bygone era, perhaps, Gleeson, that wasn't considered properly, because if it's not there, it's not exhaustive, and those local councils are not doing their due diligence. David Littleproud has just provided a little glimmer of hope for those residents whose homes have washed away or been affected to start taking on the local governments, and the state government for that matter as well, if they have decided to allow these particular parcels of land for homes to be built on. I note as well the insurance companies in particular had a pretty difficult day on the Australian Stock Exchange, and I know I'm getting a little far ahead of myself here, but in the wash-up, if you pardon the pun, of this flood disaster gripping the eastern seaboard is all of these people will really struggle once again to get their homes insured. And the knock-on effects for that for thousands and thousands of displaced residents is enormous. And then as the insurers will start to reassess as well who lives where and what insurance that they're entitled to and or not, the ramifications of this as well, Gleeson, will be felt for months and months and years to come.
Oliver Peterson, you make a sensational point here tonight on the front page. In fact, I've had some recent emails. Cyclone Debbie happened in Queensland in 2017. I've got half a dozen residents who have written to me today, and I will be doing something on this in coming days, saying that they still haven't properly had their insurance, capabilities, if you like, satisfied. 3 years on, 3.5 years on, I'll be getting to the bottom of that because that is an important point. And insurance companies, we pay big premiums, we expect proper responses, and let's just hope that in this situation that they come to the party, because it's incumbent upon them to come to the party in this land that is so susceptible to fire, to flood, and to cyclone.